Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of our talk show, Love It or Shove It. And if you are here with us for the first time, hello, my name is Irina Portnova, and I am Manifestation Star, and I'm helping people to manifest and attract the love of their life. And I'm here with my co-host, Bruno Gill, who is a self-love coach, and we have amazing guest, Sarah Sparks. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you just tell a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in this world?
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much for having me, to both of you. I am a soul alignment coach. I am a best-selling author and the creator of The Healed Process. After years of seeking external validation and feeling disconnected from my own truth, I discovered that true healing comes from within. And so the Healed Process is a proven method that guides many people through emotional and spiritual healing, helping them release core wounds, align with their soul's truth, which then we're going to be talking about how it applies to relationships, and then also to live in ease and flow. So it's not just about healing, it's about stepping fully into who you were always meant to be.
I love it. And today's topic is heal core wounds and attract true love. I just wanted to start with an interesting story. So I was talking to somebody online, and that woman actually lost her husband. And I was just, like trying to, feel compassionate to her. And I was asking her, and I said, well, would you love to jump on call so we can talk about the healing, right? And she got so offended. She's like, I do not need any help. I do not need any guidance, right? So a lot of people, why am I bringing this story? Because a lot of people do not even have the awareness. What does it mean heal? So for many people who are just, like experience the life in the 3D reality, they think that healing it's only when, like you're mentally sick or you are physically sick, right? That's when you're actually seeking the medical intervention. Can we just kind of reveal a little bit and talk about that? So a lot of people who are just exploring, or this is something new to them, so they have a better understanding that healing has nothing to do for us to be cuckoo or for us to, like experience some, like pain in order for us to seek that healing. Let's just talk a little bit about what is healing at its core.
So the way that we love is shaped on our wounds. And if we carry unhealed pain, we project it onto our partners, repeating unhealthy patterns, or settle for relationships that don't honor our soul. So healing, way you can look at it, you can just do this activity, is look back through all of your relationships and see if there's a pattern. See if there's a pattern in the start and the finish, and see if there's a common denominator. Is there a common thread in those relationships? If the relationship you're currently in is not going in the way that you want it to go, or you're not even in a relationship and you want to be in one, then go back through and see what those repeated patterns are, because more than likely they're unhealthy. And that's what the first healed is an acronym, and H stands for being healthy. So what are your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions? Are they healthy or unhealthy? And so just make an observation. If things aren't going the way that you want them to go, then more than likely there is something that needs to be healed. Healing and soul alignment helps us to break free of those cycles, and it helps us to love from a space of wholeness, completeness, honesty, and truth, rather than reacting from a space of pain, rage, hurt. I know when I was going through the healed process for myself before I taught it to anybody else, and it's a process that Divine had given me, though I walked through it for like a year and a half, not knowing that it was even called the healed process. but I sorry, my microphone echoed and then I got lost on it, lost on my train of thought. So the healed and being healthy, and I didn't even realize that some of my patterns, even in my current relationship, that is completely divine, completely healthy. He's a healed man. He's taken the time to heal. I thought I had been doing all the work because I'm spiritually aligned. I was doing all the soul work, yet there were emotions in me that even someone saying, you just got to love yourself. You just got to come from a space of love. And that you just got to love yourself. I wanted to punch them. So if there's like something that activates you, that irritates you, that quote unquote triggers you, it's not
Mm-hmm.
the external trigger that's triggering you. The emotion is already inside you. You can look at yourself like a cauldron, a black pot. And at the very
Mhm.
bottom, there's some sediment. Those are your emotions. And it's only when they're activated, some spices get thrown in there and it starts stirring up and bubbling up that we're even like, oh, there's emotions inside here. It's not the activator, it's not the trigger. That's the issue. We spend so much time in coaching and therapy. I spent over $50,000. I added it up because I was like, why can't I get over this shit? And I spent so much money, which I'm not the only one. There's people in therapy for years. Not saying that therapy's bad, it's wonderful. But I'm just saying we spend so much time trying to identify and label the other person, the people in our lives, the situations of what's going on with them, instead of going inside, cleaning out, clearing out, and healing those emotions that are causing all the stuff to happen. Does that explain?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love what you're talking about, Sarah, because when as you are talking, what comes to me is a lot of people are so detached with the emotions because
Yeah.
again, we were not trained that way, right? Even
Oh,
me when I was like, like my parents love me so much, but my mom would never express her affection. Like her love was expressed through actions but
yeah.
not so much through the words or like the emotions, right?
Yeah.
So I was growing up like being strong, like
Mhm.
nobody was teaching me, I was just observing, right? Being my mom as my role model, who is very strong, who was always like in the high role positions at work. She was like really running the household. So for me, I was like, I gotta be strong, right? But nobody was teaching me that I have to pay attention at my emotions. And somehow I believe, in the past life, I guess I already had some kind of knowing what to deal and how to deal with that, right? But a lot of times people just completely shove it to the side. And a lot of times, even when they end up in these painful relationships, they just feeling numb, but they are not ready to do the work in order to change something.
Mhm. Yeah. And even if you are wanting to do the work, are you doing the right work?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's true. I for example, like I'm gonna step in. I'm gonna tell you one of my examples that happened. Um, Something that happened with me was that, like Sarah was saying, right? Sarah was saying that the emotion is already inside of us. The problem is not who activates it. The problem is that you let it be activated because there is something to activate. Because the same thing could be happening, but if there's nothing to be activated, then you know, I mean, it's not gonna trigger you, make you react, make you angry, frustrated, whatever it is that makes you act the way you act, right? Um, I had the same thing, and it felt like I didn't have the control. The emotion inside of me was inside of me, and it was being used for the sole purpose of, as long as I do this, I know I'm in control. I know, I understand, maybe there is a consequence in the end, but at least I'm doing something, right?
mhm.
I thought I didn't have a problem. It was their problem. I was just defending myself and bringing justice to myself. But again, I was being biased to what my ego wanted to be biased already, which is safety.
Mhm.
Only when I truly detached myself from the situation and I started seeing it from a person who has nothing to do with it, like I would see it if it was something else. So I'm in the space of the audience, not in the space of the main character.
Mhm.
Was when I started to understand and see that, like, no, wait a second, something is wrong here, right? Because I say I'm not crazy, but if I was in that spot, I'd be like, that guy's out of his fucking mind, right? Like, there's something there that's not heading right,
Mhm.
right? And I started seeing, well, okay, why would I think that? What happened? How did it happen? Where did it happen? Who did it happen with? So I
Mhm.
started self-reflecting about all these things, right? And so what worked with me to fix that was like self-reflection, like self-reflecting why, like on literally on why, like why is that happening? You know, just asking questions to myself, like just really seeing the probabilities, right? With no expectation at all, because you never know what you're gonna get, you never know what you're going to expect, right? So that to me helped me a lot because yeah, I mean I thought I didn't have a problem. I thought like like I thought everything was fine. And that I was acting from a place of justice where I'm defending myself, right?
Mhm.
But I was kind of acting from a place of ego, which is safety, right? So if I want to feel safe, if I want to achieve safety, it's because I don't feel like I'm safe, and there's something fueling that, which means I'm in a place of survival. So something has to be wrong, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of like a little story that I just shared about your example and how I dealt with it. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And core wounds, I didn't even realize I had any. It's
Mm.
deeper than just
Yeah.
a core, and that it's deeper than a core limiting belief. Like when I first started on the self-help spiritual journey, trying to understand myself, trying to heal from my own divorce, and I wanted to understand, why did I get divorced in the first place? Or I'm sorry, why did I get married to someone I didn't love in the first place? And my first coach helped me to identify what core limiting belief I had, but I didn't see it like a wound. And I wasn't open and willing to even look at the emotions inside there. And like Arena was saying, most of the time we're not taught to even feel the emotions or express the emotions. Um, and so I just suppress them, and I suppress them for years. And that does have a great deal of stress on the body, tightness in the chest, tightness in the shoulders, stomach aches.
On the neck as well,
Yeah.
your
And
chin.
so, yeah. So,
I still
so
have it. Look, I just did it. I still have it. It's like yeah,
Oh,
I
I
can do
know.
this.
I catch myself doing this sometimes. I was in an interview that I was doing for someone else, and I was talking with them, and after the recording, I was like, my ears, my shoulders are at my ears the whole time. Relax. Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
core wounds shape our behaviors, our attachment styles, and our emotional triggers. But unless we even start to identify them or recognize them, if unhealed, we repeat those patterns, choosing partners who mirror our old wounds, seeking validation from them, like, am I good enough? Are they going to leave me? I know my first husband and I, after going through this, I was like, oh, wow, I felt emotionally abandoned when I was young. And he was physically abandoned by a parent when he was young. And so he was always seeking that acceptance and validation and approval. And I was always seeking that acceptance, validation, and approval. And neither of us had the capacity to give it to each other. And so I was like, oh, that's why that did not work out. I would not have ever put that together. Or maybe we think, that being jealous of a spouse or a partner or whatever, that's how we show love. Well, that's not being healthy. And it's like, oh wait, maybe there's some healing that can take take place. So back to Irina, and you're saying like, you know, you don't have to be crazy in order to heal. You don't have to have some
Mhm.
mental stuff going on, and that's okay if you do. You know, like, but
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
healing allows us to shift from reacting to responding, just like what you were saying, Bruno, of like coming from that audience outside of ourselves, observing. But that takes time. I mean, you really
Takes
have
a lot
to
of
be, you really have to be self-aware, you know,
yeah,
and
Mhm.
then it's like
for sure.
fostering that consciousness and loving connections with yourself and with others, and it takes time. So wherever you're
Mhm.
at on this journey, whenever you're tuning into this episode, just give yourself space and time. Like, it takes time to have awareness, have an understanding, know what's going on. Just give yourself some time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm. I just love our conversation. So let's talk about that. As we, the way I perceive this world, as long as we are breathing and living, there is something for us to heal. Maybe it's not that obvious. Maybe a lot of people live in the denial, saying everything is great with me. There is nothing to do about it. I even remember like when we were having like already rough things with my ex-husband. I told him, why don't you go for the therapy? He's like, there is nothing wrong with me. I do not want to do that. Right.
Mhm.
So a lot of people just live in the denial where they are not even opening themselves up to fix the situation, and they are living in their world thinking that everything is great with them, but it's all other people around them that something is wrong with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's multiple layers to what you just said. So,
Mhm.
um, I was at one point in the state of what you're saying with your ex-husband. Like, I was there of like, no, I'm good. Like, there's nothing to heal. Like, I've done all the work I need to do. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I've made the success. Like, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing to heal. But if things aren't going the way that you want them to go, if you're feeling off, if you feel like there's something greater, I don't know. Um, the concept, though, through the healed process, why I say what you said is so multifaceted is because the healed process, it's named healed for a reason. A lot of spiritual peeps, such as ourselves, consciously advanced, empathetic, love the statement, I'm on a healing journey. I'm an onion that is always unfolding. There's always something to heal. What that does, what I've learned, is keeps us in lack. It tells the universe that there is something wrong with us. And so if there's something wrong with us, we're not enough. So therefore, in return, we manifest law of attraction, we don't have enough. So there is a gentle flow and ease to recognizing when to be in healing mode and when to be in living, thriving mode. So when to, okay, there's an issue, there's a concern, I need to feel my emotions. Don't just ignore them. I ignored them for quite some time,
Mhm.
but to actually feel the emotions, recognize them, know how to release them, but then move back into alignment with your soul, with your higher self, and then get back into living mode, into thriving. So not to constantly stay in the what's wrong with me, I need to heal. Oh, I need to go deeper. Oh, there's another thing. Oh, there's another thing. Oh, there's another. There's always more to learn. There's more things. We can't just stay in that mode all the time either, because
Mhm.
that tells the universe that there's something wrong with us. So that is a shift that I am getting the word out about, because it's not talked about enough. And I didn't even realize, because I worked with a lot of spiritually successful business owners who are constantly in lack, and I was like, why, like, why are we in lack? And I include myself in that because I was there. And it's this belief that there's always more to do. We're never quite done, and it's a very humbling way to look at things, but it's not where we're supposed to stay. You can jump from healing mode to living mode, at any point in time. And when you jump to living mode, then you're in thriving. You're not, it's a very, like I said, gentle ease and flow between recognizing the emotion, releasing it, but then moving on.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit more about what does it give for people when they heal their core wounds and how they become that attraction magnet. I mean, we are always attraction magnet, but a lot of times we attract the things that we do not desire, right? So the law of attraction always works whether we like it or not, right? We are still vibrating at certain frequency, and we are attracting the reality based on the frequency we are vibrating. So let's talk about how that healing help us to tap and to actually start living and thriving and attract our people and attract our love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a lot of times behind the intention. If you actually, like Bruno was saying, your awareness, your self-awareness. So when you heal, I could use my own example of something really simple. When you heal, making breakfast isn't out of obligation for your spouse. It's because I love him. So then I infuse the waffles with love instead of something that I just have to do. Out of a big old F you hurt me 12 years ago, I guess I'll make your effing breakfast. That's an unhealed space. Still in a great relationship, still in a loving relationship, still in a soul aligned relationship, but my intention changed from a big old FU to I was able to identify, connect with the emotions, release them, be open and honest with him. And then when I make the waffles now, they're made with love. So it's not out of obligation, but out of love. So I know that that's not attracting of what you're saying, but it comes also in an attractive standpoint. I have a client who is healing abandonment and abandonment wound, attachment style issues with relationships. And so instead of begging to be in the relationship, she let go of control. She let him be. She let him be, do his life. She's living hers. She's manifesting her dream sports car, these great clients and relationships. She sees him, but she's not grasping on with the fear that he's not going to be there. That the wound is not leading, but her love is leading.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yes, I love it. It's like, fear versus faith and love, right? So when we act from fear, obviously we attract all the things that we are frightened about. If we are afraid that somebody is not going to be with us, we attract more of that. But when we just let go of the control and trust the process, knowing that the right person is going to stay. And what I noticed, like in my space where I am surrounded by, like all the coaches, I see a lot of stories and lives are changing, and a lot of relationships are changing. And there are relationships where either the partner just, actually pick up and become a better version of themselves and really match the person they're with, or that partner just falls off. That's exactly what happened in my case. And so basically, when we stop being frightful and we are kind of allow things to unfold, trusting that everything is happening for our highest good, we know that one way or another it's happening for our benefit. And it's not about being afraid to lose somebody who wasn't meant to be with you in the first place.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you have
Tracy says something. Release and receive that which is of your intention at the highest self vibration. Yes, absolutely. Yay. Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Tracy. All right. So that's the way I look at it. And for me, when we talk about once, and I also had to heal myself, because I was always, the one to fix the relationship, where I just came into the point to realize, like, it takes two to tango. You cannot just expect one person to constantly work and then another person just kind of let it be. Right. And like I said, I'm so grateful for the work that I'm doing, because manifestation taught me a lot. And once I really understood the concepts and really immersed myself into this work, understanding that I'm using these tools daily, and they tremendously help me to go through the experiences with much more strength, with much more clarity. Once I understood, I just allow things to unfold and I just let it go. And I just allow the universe to bring the best for me, right? And that's exactly how I just saw that there is something better out there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I want to emphasize on something that you know, I say this is as very important. Um, when we don't heal our core wounds, like Sarah was saying in the beginning as well, we end up attracting the same type of people because that's all we
Mhm.
know, and we end up falling on
Mhm.
that trap of self sabotage. Of I know where I want to go, but I'm always gonna go. I want to go forward, which is where I want to go, but I'm going to end up going backwards. And so I'm always up, down, up, down, up, down. And then depression kicks in, like frustration kicks in, anger kicks in because I know where I want to go, but then I'm self sabotaging myself. And now, I'm back at square one, maybe even a little bit less because I really screwed up this time. And then we get over it, right? We think, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And the next opportunity comes in, we screw up again, and then we screw up even worse. Now we feel even worse, and it's like a loop. It's a loop where each time we screw up becomes worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right?
Mhm.
Um, in my case, I went from screaming to then next opportunity came. I didn't scream. I broke things. The next opportunity came. I did worse than breaking things. I projected it onto people, right?
Mhm.
um I've done some crazy stuff. Like I've chased people down the street, like literally, like crazy. I got out of my own house and I chased people, like, yeah. And so each and every single one of them were like worse than the other, right?
Mhm.
um and yeah, it's this anger that comes out of you. It's this
Mhm.
frustration. It's this,
Mm.
it's like, you know it's like I'm not supposed to change. You are. So you change because it's not my problem.
Mhm.
You're an idiot who can think for yourself, and I have to sit here and have to change myself when I'm like 100 times smarter than you. It's not fair,
Yeah.
right? But then again, it's if you see it that way, it's hard because you're never gonna like it. It's not gonna work, right? Because especially like when I think about it, when I think about um when I think about if that has actually worked, them changing and me not, that wouldn't make me grow in a soulful way. That wouldn't teach me anything but raise up my ego. And then the next time the same thing would happen, I would now be in the expectation
Hmm.
that the same thing would have to happen. So, as much as it pleasures ourselves a lot to believe that they will stop, almost as we control them, that's not gonna happen because you don't want to control people. You don't want to control everybody because controlling 8 billion people is a lot, right? So like you want to control yourself as much as you possibly can, right? And that will like give you so many benefits in life. You probably just can see them now because you're not actually in the vibration of alignment, like almost you're living that kind of life, right? my advice would be, which is what worked for me, and I believe Sarah can also, like, and Irina as well. They both can, I think, uh, approve this, right? It's the sensorial part, right? Where, for example, give the Sarah's example, like she said in the beginning as well. People will tell me, "Oh, but just come from the love side, come from the self-love side, right?" And there would be a lot of reasons coiled up, right, as well as boiled up inside of Sarah, that um, they weren't really allowing her to take people's words the way that probably people were intending to say them. There was something triggering that reaction. There was something triggering, that way of dealing with what those people would say, or with other things, right? Um, and then again, right? It's that frustration, it's that anger, right? But when we actually start to feel like we have that, when we start like to like start self-reflecting. I mean, I wasn't thinking before I do the things that I'd be doing. I didn't think at all.
Yeah. And
You
if
know,
I might insert, like a lot of people that I get to work with and share this with is just even you saying anger and things, and going back to what Irina's saying about feeling the emotions. I hear often, but I'm not an angry person. I'm not a hateful person.
I've said that
And
multiple times.
I know, and I get it. So have I. And like, but it's because we have a vision of
Yeah,
what that type of person is,
yeah,
and we don't reflect that all the time. And so we're like, I'm not. Like, there's moments of that I am full of love, I'm full of happiness. Like, I'm a happy person, I'm a good person. But there's a difference between labeling yourself as I'm an angry person, I'm a hateful person, and having anger or hatred or rage or sadness or hurt or disappointment, and the list can go on inside of us and inside that wound, and holding it in our bodies keep score. And so there's a separation between identifying as an angry person and having the emotion of anger inside. And so then, not knowing that it's in there, then it comes out, like what you're saying, Bruno, when you're running down the street or after somebody, or my mouth overloaded my butt several times. Like, I tell people what I told my husband what I think, or I swear or yell at my kids. That's not the mom I want to be. My mothering has changed, how my relationship with my husband has changed, how I coach has changed. I know we're not talking about business here, we're talking about love, but that was like huge for me. I was like, I thought, and I channel people's soul's calling and purpose. And I didn't even realize that it's connected also to the wound. So when people would come back to me and be like, my soul's calling has changed or my purpose has changed, and I was like, it has. Like, I can feel it, and your soul's telling me this. But my purpose had changed because I'd healed the abandonment wound. So abandonment wound, think how it would, even if I felt like I was abandoned, what do you think my purpose? My purpose was then to support others so they would never feel alone. How do
Right.
you think then I showed up in my business? I overgave, I overshared. I was there. I had, like, in a mastermind, I would hold 2 sessions a week, always there, an hour each, office hours, email support, documents laid out. I mean, if someone worked with me, they had their whole freaking business with a 6-figure plan ready and waiting, and all the marketing, and then the emotional support and the spiritual support. How do you think? I mean, now I talk about compassion fatigue. Why do you think I talk about that? I experienced it. And then we, as spiritual peeps and empathy and empathetic individuals and connected individuals, take on other people's stuff and their emotions and are like, I can heal it. I can help, especially those in our own household. And it's not even our responsibility. And I mean,
Mhm.
that's what I was meaning of that beautiful dance between always feeling like you're in healing mode and being a dance in living mode. It's not ignoring the emotion. and being like, oh, I've got nothing to heal, I'm good. Like, people say that to me too, and they're full of shit. Especially, I know it. I can see it. I can see the emotion laying inside your chest that you haven't released in 23 years. It needs to be released. So yeah,
Mhm,
healing work to be done.
mhm.
And so there's a difference between that and then being in healing mode where you're like diving into the emotions, diving into everything. And I was going somewhere and my brain went somewhere else. And so now I've lost my train of thought. Shit. Anyways, I was on a roll with something, but I'm sure it was
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, it's going to come back.
That's good.
Right. But you know what? I just want to bring like back the point that, until we heal, because healing is also the awareness, right? Until we become aware that everything, whatever the experiences we are having in our life right now, that was the result of our thoughts, our words, our emotions, right? Once we become aware of it, and now we are going to ask ourselves, okay, if I've been hurt in certain areas, right, and we are talking about love and relationship, let's take a look why that was happening, right? And then we start identifying these patterns, and then we are saying to ourselves, okay, now I have to change my thinking, I have to change the way I deal with the things. Like for me, it was like have more stronger personal boundaries, like really stand up for myself and do not allow things to fall off, do not take somebody's words for the truth, right? So once we start changing something inside of us, that's when we are breaking free from these patterns. And that's when we start like seeing clearly, rather than just being in that fog and just, like living in that, story that, it's always my fault, just because the way things are right now in my relationship, just because this is all my fault, right? So we stop blaming ourselves, but we kind of just become that observer that wants to reevaluate the situation more clearly, and realizing like, wait a second, like what is my part in this situation, what is my partner's part in this situation, and how we both play in that situation in order to come out with the outcome that we are having. And now what can I do differently in order to receive different outcome?
Yeah. Yeah. Is this relationship elevating me or is it exhausting me?
Mhm.
The love it
Yes,
or shove it aspect of it.
absolutely. So Sarah, can you give a couple of tools for people in terms of like healing and attracting?
Healing and attracting tools. Okay, I didn't have anything prepared, so this is gonna have to.
Mhm.
Um, so for healing, is you could just ask yourself, is this relationship elevating me or exhausting me?
I love
Um,
that.
you could, do I feel safe, seen, and supported? Or
Mhm.
do I feel drained, anxious, or stuck in cycles of hurt? So just
Mhm.
ask yourself, kind of make a love it or shove it list.
Right. I love it. Yes.
And and where should I be in this? Should I be in the relationship that is helping me grow? Um, does love feel expansive and you feel free to be yourself? Or does a relationship trigger old wounds but not allowing it to them to be healed? So that's the relationship part. And then for the attraction part, honestly, I would recommend I created a discover the oh god, I changed its name because people were gravitating to the new name. So discover the hidden cause of burnout. It's a quiz
Mhm.
and it helps to identify those core wounds. So then at least start there. Like if you don't want to get into the emotions of it or anything, but like know where it's coming from. Like I said in the beginning, write a list. It was so cool. I did this with a group of ladies. We were doing like a spiritual women's gathering for like 6, 7 weeks years ago. And we had to write out, like I said, all the relationships in our life and like what went well, what ended them, if they're still going, like what's going on. And we looked at the common thread. One woman in that exercise says she was in her 50s. So like of 40 years of being in relationships, 4 divorces, like I just realized for the first time that I am the common denominator in all of my relationships. And that was that was one huge aha for me. I was like, okay, I didn't remarry my ex-husband. I now am with Craig, my new husband, but the ex-husband and Craig responded the same way to me in different situations and different timelines. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm the only common denominator amongst these two people. And so something must lie in me that's bringing that response in others. So doing that exercise of looking back at all your relationships and what's the common thread. Is there a thought that you're having? Is it a feeling you're having? And that goes back to your core wound. So those are some tips and tools and exercises that you could do. Just remember, there's 3 stages of growth: awareness, understanding, and knowing. You have to have awareness first. And if you're not there, those are all tools to help you just have awareness. And then from there, you can make a decision of like, okay, what is it that I do want, and start focusing on that. But even at that, you really have to heal some stuff before you just jump into let me start all the goodness. So
Yeah, you know what comes to me? Like, how brave are people to even like going into that? Because a lot of times people, like don't even want to go in there because they know there is so much to look at and to dig through and like seriously like figuring out. So a lot of people just prefer not to even go there because a lot of them feel just not happy in the relationships,
yeah.
but they are even scared to admit it because for them they know that if they start admitting it, it's going to be something, something that has to come out of it. And they're not ready to be by themselves, they're not ready to like let the partner go, like because there is a lot of things that are unfolding, but they do not realize that if they are sitting in that, I would call swamp, they are not really seeing the beauty what's on the other side, because only when we step over that invisible life, that line that we draw for ourselves, and a lot of times we are scared, okay, we do not know what's out there. And for me it was also that part, right? I was like, how do I know I'm going to be okay? How do I know if I can attract somebody who is going to love me and cherish me and adore me, right? So I think a lot of times people are afraid to kind of stand up and walk away from the current relationship, even though they are not happy, because they do not know what's out there. So they prefer just to sit where they are because at least it's familiar. Maybe it's not the best, but at least this is something that they've known, that they experienced. And it just like I can tell with certainty that as soon as anybody makes that decision, it's going to guide them to something beautiful.
That is definitely a true statement. Well, decide on the matter and it will be established for you.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
so true. I have several stories I could tell you around that one, but I know we can save that for another time.
Yes. But I say it's how important it is like to really start being more aware and ask ourselves, right? Because let's face it, we are in this body once in a lifetime. So we want to make the best out of it. Like, what's the point of living if we are not feeling that happiness, if we are not really with that person that we feel inspired, the person that supports us, that we are really thriving in that relationship? Like, what's the point? So for me, I would rather choose to stay by myself than being in the relationship where I'm not appreciated, when like I'm not supported, and when I feel that I always working on the eggshells.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for this conversation.
Yes, thank you, that was very inspiring and great. Bruno, you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that, well, I believe that, like we're talking about healing and attracting, I believe that the relationship we have with ourselves is always what matters the most, right? Um, I'm a firm believer that, like, we treat others the same way we treat ourselves. We have the same compassion we have for others that we have for ourselves. We have the same pity for others that we have for ourselves. We push others the same way we push ourselves. We care for others the same way we care for ourselves. Um, and so a lot of times, I'd be like, then again, like, a lot of times I'd be like, well, but then how do I have so many good advices for other people, but I don't have those advices for me? How can I come up with the advice for others, but I cannot come up with those advices for me? And then I'd be like, well, because you are, again, you're being biased towards your situation, right? You are attached to what's happening. You're not seeing it from an outside perspective, right? You know your perception, sure, right? You absolutely know your perception, but your perspective is wrong. Um, so you need to be able to, or let's say, when it comes to like healing core wounds and attract true love, it's not about who you are. It's not about like who you're bringing into your space, right? Or what you're bringing into your space. It's about more how you're positioning yourself, right? Because again, like, you can set the intention to who you're bringing and what you're bringing, but then you're setting the intention on the outside. So you're valuing more the external of what's coming than really your internal, right? Or you can set the intention of uh, who am I being, what am I doing, right? And then when you set that intention and then you act on that, you don't have to try very hard to inevitably attract what you want from the outside, right? So first the inside, then the outside, and not the opposite. All right. Um, so this is not about, hope or even faith. This is science. This is like 1 + 1 = 2, and that's a fact, right? When you become something and you become a vibration to it, you attract that and only that, right? Um, to become that vibration and to become that frequency, healing core wounds is an aspect of it, as it is others. In this case, we're talking about healing core wounds, right? Attracting the true love can be one of the benefits if it is a part of one of the positives of the intentions that were set,
Mhm.
right? But my point is, life does not start on the outside, it starts on the inside, right? So the intention should not be, all right, I want to attract these people and I want to attract these objects, I want to attract this material stuff, whatever it is. That's not the objective. The objective is, how can I be a receptor, right? How can I be the best receptor to inevitably attract these things without doing much, right? Who do I have to become? What do I have to say? What do I have to do, right? Like, what kind of person does this? Am I this person? What should I do to become this person, right? So you talk about romance, you talk about money, you talk about friendships, you talk about, success, you talk about professional, whatever it is. Only when you become that person that you set yourself as, right? And that's the thing, is like, let's make one thing very clear. Like, you don't have to be somebody that you have seen as, right? I don't know if you ever watched like the show Suits with Harvey Specter, for example, right? You're not only successful if you become Harvey Specter. You're not only successful if you become Rambo. You don't have to be like Rambo. You don't have to be like Harvey Specter. You don't have to be like Rock. You don't have to be like these people. You have to be the way you see yourself as being, if you have all that you want to have, right? So it's very important to, for example, journal and set your intentions from the inside and saying, okay, so for me to inevitably attract everything that I desire internally, because again, life starts internal, right? And then you project that to the outside, right? what should I do to attract whatever I want inevitably? By becoming like, what do I have to become internally, right? And so once you know that, it's all about really taking accountability, having compassion for yourself, which is not easy at all, takes time, like we mentioned multiple times in here, and baby steps, slowly but surely. So that's kind of my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that was a powerful conversation. Again, thanks so much, Sarah, for coming today, for bringing your energy and your light, and for everybody just to claim Sarah's quiz for the cause of the burnout, and check out the links. And for everybody, continue to figuring out if you are in the loving relationship where both of you grow, and if you are not, start asking these great questions and see where you want to take your journey from there. Because remember, if we want to do something with our life, we can always do that. We do not have to wait for something bad happen to us, which majority of people of doing, right? So we do not have to sit and wait. We can actually act and create something powerful in our life. So heal those core wounds and attract that true love that you all desire. Thank you so much. And love and light to everybody. And see you on the next episode.